Hello, hello. I'm Dan Lutz, and we're here for another of our GCR The Big Lie series. T minus 12, I think this one is. And we're doing kind of a countdown to, we're going to do 14 in a row or so of these.
T minus 12, I think this one is.
We're here I go.
Doing kind of a countdown.
Oh, I missed my cue to go and turn that off. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's all part of it. We're doing a get out the awareness campaign about what is going on with the financial restructuring of the system with the Manna World Holding Trust, and I have Tank Stefan Rowe here to have our conversations and talk about what's going on and give people an idea that there is things happening right now. And so why don't we start with that and go ahead, Tank. I think you have some things that we can start off with.
Yeah, a lot of things to start out with, sure. So, I, this is a battle right now, and the deep state right now is fighting for their lives, and right now, for the first time, I can say with a great deal of confidence that we have them on the run. Um, Kim has worked very diligently through diplomatic ways to work with the government, fund the governments, and that would kind of be the pathway normally, where the money would be, transferred through. She has accounts now at the Department of the Treasury. Unfortunately, they have not honored their end of the deal, basically. So they've never come through to make sure that money gets back to the people. And the reason why we started this is because they basically negotiated our enslavement. So last week, when President Trump returned from Vietnam, and the Secret Service uncovered that the vaults where the $27 trillion in fraudulent Federal Reserve super notes were supposed to be stacked, that I believe were printed up in North Korea, where probably the Federal Reserve Rothschilds provided one of the De La Rue printing machines. And the super notes are actual real currency. It's the exact same note, except the number, the actual serial number on that, is a duplicated allocation number, meaning it's not valid. And disturbingly enough, about 80% of the hard cash out there right now is fraudulent super notes. So the logic would be that because there's a liquidity crisis that's brewing, and that means that at any moment, you know, the illusion of the economy could crash. And they've already done a panic up on the markets where they've built it so high. I compare it to like Superman taking a villain really high in the air so he can smash him down to the ground. That's kind of what they did. And so basically, we have all these factors going on simultaneously. So that being said, when they did that, they basically they said, well, we're going to give the Rothschilds 2 more weeks, because they've been our slave owners all this time. So they've managed to keep us enslaved for the past 16,000 years. And we feel like 2 more weeks ought to just about do it. Then we'll decide we want to be free, or some idiotic decision like that. I'm not sure exactly how they came to that conclusion, but for whatever reason. But they were told that if they didn't do it by, I believe it's the 15th, that all of them would be fired, meaning all of the dragon families associated with the central banks and the management of the money for these different countries, that they would be let go. Um, which is funny to me because I feel like, the child trafficking, I feel like, what? I think you need to slow down on the child trafficking, because if not, we're going to let you go. But whatever. I mean, I guess they make decisions for different reasons. So anyways, when that happened, that was kind of the last straw for Kim. And she had, I know, just with me alone, we've spent just about a year and a half nonstop making diplomatic arrangements with countries all over the world, working with various bankers, giving everyone the right, giving everyone the opportunity and the education, very patiently educating people, and so far, there's very few countries that have successfully done that. Now, in this case, the government was very receptive to being funded for the past year. The U.S. government has been kept afloat by funds from the Manna World Holding Trust, while they all waited for the government was very receptive to being funded for the past year. The U.S. government has been kept afloat by funds from the Manna World Holding Trust. They all waited.
Just come on. Let me see. I think I can mute you.
Very receptive to being funded for the past year.
There we go.
Good. Okay. So the U.S. government has been very receptive to being funded for the past year, but for some reason they didn't do their part, meaning they did not pay the 2% administration fee back to the trust. It took them, I want to say, 6 months to set up an account in the U.S. in the Department of the Treasury for Kim and Manna, which is ridiculous because she was paying all of their salaries, right? So I really wonder because she did a lot of work to educate them on the role of the trust at the Department of the Treasury, and in so doing, it seems like they would have been like, "What? How hard must it be for Kim, who has essentially she hasn't taken a dime, she hasn't made a dime in years. She has basically lived. She has committed herself so diligently not to compromise with these people, and they've blocked her. So here she is educating the Department of the Treasury, and she's making arrangements so none of them suffer, right? Make sure they have their paycheck, right? Because the government was up in arms because the government shutdown and all these people are losing their houses, which is the most ridiculous thing ever. Like 2 weeks down and they missed 2 paychecks, and they're losing their houses. Like if they're losing their houses, it's because they're negligent for the past 3 months. They didn't all of a sudden lose their house in those 2 weeks, but whatever. But while these people are all crying poverty and the humanity of it all, they've you know not only have they not allowed her to receive a dime, they've basically made it a full-time job to plot her death and try to assassinate her repeatedly. And so that's what's been going on her end, and she has been a saint, to be quite honest about it, because she has been so diligently continue to work with them and give them opportunity, and also realizing that people don't know, they have a natural tendency to think that she's the bad guy, right? Because they've been lied to. So, but last Friday, was it? Yeah, last Friday, she basically she said she'd had enough, and so she had already built a alternative method that she's kept pretty close to the vest. That basically a method to work around so that they can't infiltrate that. So uh, she she was going to provide me an update today, but she probably didn't want me to put it out on the air. Because we have kind of a deal that if she tells me about it, I'm allowed to share it. So, when when I don't know, it's because I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Well, that's okay. But we know that it's pretty close though, right? And probably less than T-12. It's probably more like T-1, T-2, T-3.
I think it's right. I mean, I really think of this, commitment that you and I made for the next 11 days now, the remaining 11 days. I really think a lot of that time we will be able to talk about things that matter. We'll be able to talk about what we're going to do and how we're going to fund projects and why it's important and what are the ethical guidelines that all of us agree on, right? Because I think that's important. I think it's really important for people to understand this is an entirely different way than we've ever thought about funding from the standpoint that our goal is to return ownership, to the people, right? And that hasn't been the case, And also, we're not looking to, we're not looking to make money off these people. However, we do want them to be successful, right? So we want to do all we can to take really great ideas, and high character people and amazing inventions and take these things and give them a venue and a world where they can thrive. And there's a lot of ways to do that, a lot of ways to do that. But in my opinion, where it all starts is everything we do from here on out, from at least with Create Change and our team and the Guardian of Camelot, all the people that come through us to get project funding, is everything is going to be about empowering the natural innate creativity of the human spirit. Everything we do has to be done with the highest level of integrity. You know, he's the wisest minister I ever knew. He was asked one time about God, and he said, if God is the all in all, he's everything, you know, how can God never change? He's always changing into different things, right? And the man gave the wisest response I ever heard. He said, Aya Asher Ire, I will be what I will to be. God will be whatever he wills himself to be, and that will never change. Now, I use that example because that's the model that that I'm using, and I strongly believe in, is we're going to develop the best products. Now, the best products today, or the best services today, or the best attitude, the best manners, the best, you know, um, the best health, the best place to work is really the goal, right? And that to do that, you can't get married to any one thing. You have to constantly be willing to change, adapt, improve, take correction.
You mean
And
like look at cryptocurrency as something that can be used?
well, I mean, and maybe if we work on the name, maybe it's the name that's throwing me off. Dan, I don't know. I, I don't know. Maybe there's a reason. I just, I, like I said, I really, you to me, if anybody is gonna make it work, is you. You know, every other every other platform I know about, every other version of the. I mean, who's the guy who just died, and he held the key, the one code to this, $200 billion and whatever the coin was. And when he died, they lost all their money. I mean,
Yeah, it's
to
one of
me,
the
that's a
exchanges.
pretty
Yeah,
volatile system that doesn't really work in the best interests of the people, right? It's like even if they made great money, I mean, that is the exact system, right? You made a lot of money. Look at all the money you made. What are you going to do with it? You don't want to keep it in your bank account. Here's what you do: put it in my secret bank account, right? That's what they do, right? That's what that's right now. That's what we're dealing with, right? Is that because people convinced
well,
us of things like
okay.
that?
Well, listen, I hear what you're saying. Well, let's flip it around to the other side. All right,
Okay,
the existing banking system in Greece. What happened to the money? They just took it. Whose bank account was it? It's some secret bank account, right? It's well, all the money belongs to the banking elite, right? It's the system's money. They just allow you to use it. So you're talking about these accounts. It's the same thing in cryptocurrency. It's a young industry. Yeah, if someone was stupid enough to create a whole exchange, a Bitcoin exchange or a cryptocurrency exchange, where the keys were with one guy, and that one guy just kicked the bucket, all of a sudden, oh, we have no access. That's a problem, but that could have been dealt with, right? There could have been
yeah,
structures put in place, but all these things are well. Let's not do that again, right? Let's just make sure that the companies have, these exchanges have some, backup for the key people, right? And that can be done.
you know, and by the way, I agree with you. I totally agree with you, and I appreciate what you're doing. And anybody who doesn't know, you know, Dan's been working on a way to work around the financial system for a long time, right? Which, to be honest, to his credit, where a lot of us were sitting around for waiting for somebody else to change it, he's been working on a way to change it, right? So, I'm not a fan of cryptocurrency, but he's been working on it. He sees the integrity in what he's doing. Here's what I would say: it's not the system, it's the people. Now, that's why I say your integrity. I believe in you. Like, I think there's a
Thank you.
place to work it, but it's not a priority right now, in my opinion. Because now it would be if we weren't right where we're at. And the only reason why I say that, and I know that it's tough because people have been playing this the CIA op, the Tomorrow Game, right, for so long, and I don't want to be. I really don't want to be a part of that. So I haven't done consecutive calls like this in forever, because if I don't know what's going on, I don't want to talk about it anymore because I don't want to be accused of just blowing smoke. I want my words to have meaning. So I am very, very confident now in where we're at that you have two things converging, right? You have, it's like kind of a make it or break it moment. I know people right now. who, we're flying out to Reno. They got charter jet companies calling them up and making arrangements. And how much does your luggage weigh? They're going to Reno to do an exchange. And you know what? Some of the dinar has been registered as an asset. So by itself, it's an asset, right? It's not a legit asset, but that's how they're going to try to infuse money into the system, right? So people are going to do that, and that's all that's going to do is further perpetuate, because the one person's going to make, they're probably going to have $1 million or something like that, right? And then they're going to be told the rest of the money we're going to keep in an SKR, and when the big event goes down, then we'll give it to you. Which no one ever gets that money, because all the mirrors that held that stuff in place are gone. So I think right now, because where we're at, and by the way, I'm gonna get Kim to talk to you about this, because I feel like you really have an in-depth knowledge of this stuff that had you introduced me to a year ago, it would have been more helpful.
Yeah, maybe so. Oh, well, we've got it'll roll out the way it needs to roll out. We just keep moving forward, and we'll figure it out. But at least we're at that stage where at least Kim has a workaround, right, to make sure that the funding can come through for these projects.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least Kim, who has all the assets. So thank God Kim has, not at least, thank God Kim, because it's amazing when you think about this, right? Because everybody gets bent out of shape. I was hearing it again today. People still couldn't embrace, how could one woman have that power? And it's amazing. It was hundreds of people. There was hundreds of trustees, and they were always taking possession of people's assets and putting them in the trust, and which is basically the asset redemption program, right? Which is really what they were doing with the humanitarian projects too, right? You go, oh, you're gonna do this great humanitarian project. Just give us the rights to your land so we can build on it, right? Then they would basically just take possession of the land and never do the project, And they did that forever. So when they took possession of all the in-ground assets, above ground assets, and I'm pretty sure like souls are registered to it. I mean, there's all types of like strange assets on the planet that are valuable, right, beyond just the things that we're used to. It's the people, all these different things. So, and they're all registered to the trust. Everything, even so that is thank God you have someone there now, because it was not a plan to like, okay, we're going to take possession of everything and then give it back out. That was not the plan. The plan was, we're going to take possession of everything, and we're going to, turn on a frequency that's going to turn the whole surface of the earth to dust in seconds. And we're going to take everything. That was basically it. So thank God you have someone in place who's not going to let that happen.
It's amazing time, and for how this is all coming together. And of course, the title of this series, GCR, the Big Lie. And I've told you about my core group of people I've been working with, and these are really good people, right? And they want to do the best thing on the planet, and they're waiting for this, for the GCR. I'm waiting for the GCR, and all of this, but in my conversation with you earlier, before this broadcast, I was laying out, we've they had a lot of things ready to go and lined up, and trust set up, and organization, where the money is going to flow to, what the plans are, all that's there and ready to go. And I'm there, you heard of like the blue pill and the red pill, right, from the Matrix, right? And everyone is getting red.
Oh yeah, right.
Well, I gave them a big yellow pill, like a one of those lemon head candies. It's really sour. You like to eat.
Right.
They are going, because I'm saying, the GCR is not going to happen that way, and that everything that we've been working on, we're under some big psyop. And they're, they don't want to take the red pill, right? So they have a sour face. I mean, not so drastically, but it's hard for anyone to hear this. That what everyone's been working for a decade or more, that have been involved with this, is it's not that way. It's not what everyone thought it was. Even the people they were dealing with, they know that those are good people, and And I went through this conversation. Am I on the white hat side or am I on the black hat side? What
Yeah, I know.
what's going on? Well, but now, if we're at this point where there's another way for these projects to move forward, these people can get activated, even if it's not through the way that they thought it was going to happen. They still have projects.
Well, and that's the thing. If people can embrace the you know, what's possible with, a lot of people had to really adjust to the idea of having this unlimited amount of money, right? That was already uncomfortable. Um, when we were all looking at you know, the uh, the GCR, but in reality, if you just look at how people are valued, we ourselves, we value, a hard day's work. We value creativity, right? When you make something with your own hands, and we've really gotten away from that on levels, right? So it's really, you know, you had at some point people had great ideas. Unfortunately, this process has just beaten the hell out of so many people. And I talk to them every day. I talk to people every single day that are um, down on their luck, and listen, this is a true story. A very good friend of mine, David Hayden. He's the same guy who invented the cloud and the voice over technology that you use for like WhatsApp and things like that. He invented those things. He was on the cover of Forbes magazine in 1999. This guy he has an internet design that I can't talk about, but it is like beyond amazing. So I think he got targeted, right? He's walking out in the woods with his dog. He has a stroke. So he rolls over to the tree, right? He's going to pull himself up on the tree, and he ends up falling down in a ravine on top of a beehive. He gets stung by all these bees, and he's down there being stung and beat up. And luckily, I mean, after hours laying in this ravine, having a stroke, unable to move, his dog finally, got the attention of somebody, and the helicopter came and medevaced him out. But I mean,
Is he okay
that
now?
was over. He's reasonably okay. I mean, you know, things have a way of disappearing when you're incapacitated, right? So, um, it's hard to say. So he had to relearn how to talk, how to move, how to do everything. It was just, I mean, it was over a year ago, and it was just a few days ago he took his first steps, right? Now, he's done some amazing things, and the cabal set him up. I mean, a long time ago, and they took his whole fortune. You know, they took like hundreds of millions of dollars from him in a case where he was obviously should have won. There was no doubt. His own lawyer set him up, right? And that's the kind of thing, and it's all because he wouldn't go along with things they wanted him to be part of, right? So they don't let people hang on to it. You can make it, so they can take it, but for the most part, people have not been allowed to. People with real creative ideas and ways to change the system, they're not allowed to thrive, right? They're not allowed to thrive, and
Well,
they're not allowed to bring their
I
technology up.
know it. I've seen it many times. Many people that I've known, and in the same way, they're very ingenious people, And if they're ready to break through on one level, and maybe they've already broken through once or even twice before, but it's always where they fall back.
Yeah. Well, excuse me.
And usually the legal system is involved in some way of removing their wealth. I mean, they're called attorneys to turn over your asset, right? They don't work for you.
Right. They're bill collectors. I mean, everything you realize that every warrant is a bill. That's why if you have enough money, you can pretty much get out of anything because you just got to pay the highest price. You know, and it's amazing. It's amazing how these things go down. Right now in my immediate group, like this goes down. Um, we have one guy who has almost 2,000 studies, pharmaceutical grade studies that he's done, and he has cured AIDS. Okay, he's cured it. There's no question. He's done almost 2,000 studies, which would make it the most studied pharmaceutical drug in history, right? Beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I'm like, okay, what are we gonna call it? Because we don't want to call it a cure, because cure disease is illegal.
It's illegal, yeah.
It's illegal to cure. And this, I mean, you want to talk about things that we really got to address. who was the pack of jackrabbits who sat around and said, I think the best thing for the people. That's the first part of the joke, because that never happened, right? They probably said, one of the best ways to control the people is we'll just make it illegal to cure things, right? Then we can go in and do whatever we want, and that's what they do, right? So they made it illegal to cure things, and then they made, like, back in the 30s or whatever it was, when they discovered vitamin B17, right? The vitamin B17 would selectively combine with the cancer cells and create a binding poison of like cyanide that would dissolve the cancer within days, right? And it's not only that, but it's so common. It's found in like marigold flowers, right? And they're repeating the studies up in Buffalo State, and they've already hidden the research, right? I just caught it because I had a connection there.
Even the old wives' tale, an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Yeah.
Well, you're supposed to eat the seeds. The seeds have cyanide in them.
Yep.
Right? And so it has the B17 in the apple, and it actually will dissolve cancers if you have an apple a day. But you have to eat the core. You have to eat the seed. You have to masticate the seeds. You have to chew them up to release that.
Now, my grandpa used to tell me that. That's interesting. I mean, and that's the thing, is that we're designed to last. Like, our bodies are designed to last and to be strong. And, the only thing that could stop that is if, by some random crazy conspiracy theory, that they were spraying chemicals in the air that had heavy metals in it that were destroying our bodies and putting poison in our water and, taking the nutrients out of our food. But that's ridiculous. Let's go with the mainstream narrative that we are currently in, right? Let's go down that path. I just find everything, this whole sham, to me, is so insulting at some point. The fact that you have completely unimaginative leaders who aren't trying to lead, right? They shouldn't even be called leaders. I shouldn't use that term. I guess they're controllers, right? And they're not even really controllers, right? They just happen to be the people who are in control of this tiny little part of the world that happens to dictate, how we get stuff. And they're coming up with their latest narrative and bad stories about, one idiotic thing after another. My my friend called me and told me that Alexandria Cortez was talking about something so ridiculous. She was talking about how we should be sending expeditions to the sun or something like that. And then she said, but only at night.
Let her be the first one on the ship.
But she said only at night. Now I'm thinking to myself, that's got to be a joke, but I don't doubt it. I mean, she's an actress. That's all they did a casting call and they brought her in, and what, the Bronx County that she's over, it's the third biggest county in the United States, and that's the representative. And she should probably be able to stay elected. She's cute, and like, she's got a lot of the Bronx is Hispanic, so be able to pull that off. She'll just keep perpetuating lies.
Well, and she might not actually survive because of the campaign finance problems. She could go to jail 5 years.
Oh my goodness! When was the last time you saw that happen? Tell me about it. When was the last time you saw that happen? You know what?
Well, just a little. Because talking about going to jail, it's up to 90,000 sealed indictments. 90,000. So it keeps escalating. So I'm waiting for that to start leveling off, because that's when I know that they're going to start now going the other way. They're unsealing them.
Okay, so let's paint the picture. So how do you think it'll go? Like, how do they successfully do that?
I think what they do is, first, they have to get through this cleaning out of the judicial system, right, which is replacing a lot of these judges, and that's underway. They have to, again, now go all the way to Supreme Court. They still got to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg, if she is still alive or not. Who doesn't matter, but she's the next to go. So that might have to be in there as well. But along the way, we have this transition. So the first phase is now declared by QAnon, and some of the things are going like, I was just watching Serial Brain 2. End We Know is the channel. It's a very good one. Now, this is deep puzzles. This where gematria and other things that they're playing in this, but that this is now we're going into phase 2. So phase 1 is basically the cleaning out of the judicial and getting the awareness up of people about all of these things. You can bring people to because of lying into the front court. So now, who's been lying? Well, you can okay, now the Democrats have been lying. You can bring these up. So they're setting a lot of the stages for it. Now it's set, and now with the first D class or the first reports, the Mueller report or the Inspector General report. We've had the Senate report and the come out, and the first House report come out. They said no Russian collusion, all right. But now when they come out with these reports, and now they start pointing fingers the other side, well, where is the collusion? That's the next phase. When they start saying where is the collusion, they start bringing out the evidence of showing that it's the Obama White House that's basically, which is they're saying this out on it. So it's now starting to seep into the minds of people that there is now Russian collusion on the Democrat side. We looked at the Republican, there isn't any. Now we're going to look at the Democrat side. So the people are now going to shift. And when that spotlight is now focusing in, this is when you're going to now have the justification to start these trials. And it might just be the middle level people, maybe like 2 steps down before they go directly to Hillary and Obama and Bush.
Right. Because that makes sense, because that way they know you're coming. So they have enough time to pull together the thousands of private military that they pay, because they control, or at least in the private military, last they knew, they're the ones who are over the accounts they have on the back ledger, right? So now all the private military, all of Eric Prince's group,
those people are not being paid, right? They've
great point. They haven't been being paid for years. How they got away with it? Here's how they got away with it: because we're going to give you a bunch of dinar. Look, you're a god. You are special. Nobody can do what you do, and you're going to be able to rule the world. You just got to stick with us for this. Just protect us for this. Just do one more thing for us for this, and we'll give you the dinar. We'll make you the head over this imaginary trust that we just created, but it's got a ton of money in it, right? The problem with all this that I have is you have 90,000 of these indictments. So let's say, if they can have up to 99 people in each one, let's be conservative. Let's just average it out and say there's 2 in each one. So let's call it 180,000 people, right? And these 180,000 people are various aspects of the government and law enforcement, judges, a lot of the people you would need to actually enforce laws, right? What do you see that makes you feel they are really on it and enforcing laws? Because I don't see anything. I don't see any now, and I'm on the very highest levels of this. The very highest levels. Even President Trump isn't honoring his deals. Legal, because we have the legal authority to do this.
Yeah.
Sorry,
the only things that they have moved forward on have been on sex trafficking, human trafficking. Those things they have done arrests. They are moving those things through.
You're right. By the way, you're right. Yep.
Right. A lot of it. So when they have this, I think Hillary is literally going to be the one that's going to be hanging out in the front with this uranium one and the Russian collusion. It's now her Russian collusion spotlight. Boom. When that happens, that's when all those middle level people and all the people that were protecting them are going to go, okay, oh, well, now she's actually looking in a very weak position. Are we on the right team? Those people are going to start jumping ship when that happens. When they start seeing those just Hillary. Then they'll talk about Obama or Bush yet, right? But just Hillary out there.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that she was the one destined. She got pushed aside. 2 years later, now the whole system has been upset. Everything's in a panic, and they're now being asked to do things and not getting paid. I think those people start really shifting, and they know their other buddies on the white hat side in the military they're moving forward diligently, and they know the protocols, and they're very organized, and they're telling them, hey, you're on the wrong team. So it's going to start happening.
Really? Okay, because let me respectfully disagree with that.
Okay.
The white hats are the ones who are guarding the Chinese elders. I know that for a fact.
Listen,
So that's what drives me crazy. These are the good guys.
But the problem is that those white hats have slowly been turning gray, and as soon as Hillary is like pointed out and that spotlight's on there, their hats turn gray automatically, and they look themselves in the mirror and they say, "Oh, my hat was white. Why is it gray now?" All right, they're going to self-analyze, and that's what's going to happen. They're going to it's a process because of everyone's mindset being so. I mean, just look at the GCR. Everyone thinking it is this way. High-level people throughout thinking it's this way. Government officials, military generals, they're all thinking it's this way. And for them to go through that, it's just that, they have to go through the state of denial, right? They have to do that internally, right? And when I think that trigger is I mean, they're starting the trigger started to happen even with the envelopes in the Bush funeral, right? I think that was a very big moment. That D5, that avalanche, that was like, pulling the finger out of the dike. The cracks started to go at that point. And they're still pretending that it's in place. But as soon as these reports have now come out, and I think that's also part of why, QAnon, the countdown is for these reports to come out. I think that's what it's about. Whether it's all the reports, Mueller and the Inspector General report, either one, it's going to start. Now, if they want to stretch it out, they're going to separate them, right? Or they're going to try and lay it on. It depends how fast they need it to go. And so it's also a timing game. They need to have enough in place,
Well, let's think about it. So who is the gentleman that got arrested the other day? It was for a non-violent crime. It was a mishandling of some minor infraction. They showed up at his house. The news was already there before the FBI showed up.
You mean
They showed
Roger
up with
Stone?
yeah, and then 27 agents escort him out in the biggest circus of all, because
Yeah,
the trained agents in killing and the ability to hunt someone down, the ability to fight, to wrestle, to yield a gun, they needed 27 of those guys to kill that one nonviolent offender.
right.
So let's think about that. So if it takes 27, let's say it takes 5 for every single op. From one person, it takes 5. So you're going to need about 1 million people mobile. I mean, you're going to need close to 1 million people to mobilize at the same time to go get these guys. You don't have that, first of all. If all of the guys were good guys, you wouldn't even have that.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But on the Roger Stone thing, number one, he was high-profile target for them, right? So they had to expend some of their ammunition. They had to make it look like that Trump is doing something really bad, right? And the more that they made it seem like a big thing against Roger Stone, oh, it must be bad against Trump. That was the association they're trying to make. It didn't work. It really didn't work. Of course, it worked with some people, but the majority of people didn't look at it that way. So they're just going through they're panicking, right? The deep state is panicking. They're making mistakes. This is a mistake, right? I mean, they look bad, right? Why, really? 27 agencies, how many guys, helicopters, the whole thing. And he would have just walked in if you asked him to come in to turn himself over.
Yeah. All you had to do was make a phone call. He would come in. You would contact his lawyer. He would have been right down there.
And it's not like he hadn't already been in several times, right? For meetings, right? They could have just brought him in for a meeting and said, "Oh, by the way, we're arresting you at this point."
Right.
They didn't have to expend all that money. So it was a show. They needed to make this show. And so this is happening, and it is very well orchestrated. Whether it's, was actually outlined 1 year ago or 2 years ago before they got to this phase, don't know. But, at least from the plan is basically to conduct a global deep state war. It's not just about restoring the American Republic, right? It's
Mhm.
also about routing out the deep state around the world. That also includes Venezuela, anywhere the socialism is. And as I said, I think that that socialism is going to be the one that's going to die here in these next 5 to 10 years. It's going to be gone, and communism is just going to become a different kind of form of government that still has capitalism pushing the economy around in China
Yeah,
specifically. So
I I always feel like I miss with this, right? Because I don't quite understand. Um, I don't understand the mentality. I think about this with these various high end pedophiles, for example, right? Now you have these very elite pedophiles who don't do anything for themselves. So that means that they have hired security. That's government security in a lot of cases, right? They're former military, CIA agents, trained, Social Security, not Social Security, Secret Service, right? You have all these guys. Now they're trained to protect people. They have an innate desire to do the right thing. They're the same guys who have to bring, the kids in to where these pedophiles are raping, molesting, and killing them. And if they bring them to that room and they never have to bring them out, I mean, I guess my question is to all those guys, and by the way, and I think it's terrible because there's a lot of good people in there, and I'm sure you know these other guys make them look bad, right? But my question is, how does that happen? How how can that be happening? Still, how is that still indoors? How is anyone able to be loyal to someone who's doing that? That's the part. I mean, pretty much it's universally recognized that, if you know somebody, if you got like a dirty uncle in your family who's like gets busted molesting kids, like he's the pariah. Like nobody wants anything to do with
well,
him, right?
yeah, it is, and that's still the these everybody in the swamp that was of good heart, and when they got there just got the slow boil, right? Like the
Slow
frog.
boil,
You
man.
know, they just found it's everywhere around them, and they said, "What world am I in? Is this the way it is everywhere?" And everywhere they went, it was the same. The people in power were put into place in everywhere in the whole world in this way. So they almost had no choice other than stop what they were doing and do something completely different, right? To get out of
Wait. That's a choice.
that is a choice.
Yeah.
Right?
And see, and now here's the thing. For every one of these people out there right now who all think, you know what, I didn't have a choice. Screw you. You had a choice. You
But
had a choice,
yeah,
and you
I'm
chose
playing
wrong.
the
So
frog's advocate here. So
no. I'm with you. I just sometimes these things just spark me. It's
yeah,
we have got. I can't even let it in my language anymore. I will not. I will not act like it's forgivable. It's not their fault. You know what? How could they help it? You know,
right,
the, it's not hard. It's not hard. We've spent our whole life as grown men, right, having to deal with sexual desires, and never would ever even remotely hurt a woman or child in any way. Would never do it. And it doesn't matter. Never. Well, not, I won't do it. So you do have a choice. You do have
you
a
do.
choice. But what they chose was, I want to be powerful. I want to be rich. I want to be in control. I want to be the boss. I want to be a big man or an important woman.
Right,
I want to be I want to be a slave master. I don't want to be a slave, is what they decided, right?
yeah.
And by the way, I guess if that's the choice, it's like, wow, it's like
I think yeah,
syphilis or herpes. Which
that's
one?
it's the mirror choice, right? So the first choice when you first get into it, you notice it. All right, it's the slow boil, right? You're kind of like uncomfortable a little bit, but if you do this, it's uncomfortable. You do this, anything you do, it's going to be uncomfortable, and you delay, and you get deeper, and it gets warmer and warmer, and you get to the point where the choice is, well, I'm gonna like be above this and be the slave master, not the slave. So the choice changes to to a different choice. In the beginning, it's a choice. Well, do I protect children, or do I protect my job, right?
Yeah, I know, and I get it.
Of course, this is all,
I get it.
off the top of our heads and stuff, but it does seem like that it almost is this like the again, the road to the dark side is starts with the first step, right? You just don't know when you're down that path, when can you turn around and get out, right? Darth
Yeah,
Vader finally did it, right?
yeah. Well, I look at it like this. My dad always said, pray for wisdom before strength. Have the wisdom not to put yourself in a situation before you are praying for the strength to get out of it. You know, and I just at this point though, um, they've really, to be quite honest, from the highest authority on the planet, they've been given every opportunity to repent and really to do the right thing and to survive and kind of save their reputations and change their behavior. They've been given that opportunity now. And that means now, granted, I guess, some of the lower level people, they probably don't even know that, right? Because they've been lied to all along. And for them, that's, the kind of middle of the road guys who've been roped into doing who knows what, I mean, that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate. It doesn't make it okay though, just for the record, right? Because you're still a mercenary, just because you're a merc who's made a decision to sacrifice a child's life so that you can have a paycheck, right? Which, you know, as far as I'm concerned, walk away from that job. As a matter of fact, I I was thinking about ways to mobilize people now, right? And there's the walk away movement for the Democrats, right? You know what? I thought about it. Too bad if we could just connect the vibration at a higher frequency and be like, I want everybody to walk away from their BS government job. Have everybody walk away, make a big scene of it, shut everything down. Take your codes, take everything out with you. Perfectly legal, nonviolent, just leave. If you could just get people to realize what they're part of, would we all stop making the same pathetic excuse that, I had no choice. I got kids to support, I got bills to pay. Why? Why? If we all stop paying the bills, what are they going to do? Like, there's no money in the system anyways. They've been stealing our money nonstop anyways. Just stop. If we could mobilize enough people, you know what? We'd all suddenly realize, like, wow, they're not that powerful. There's a book called The Prophet, and in The Prophet it says this: all of our power is in our awareness of our power. And the problem that we have is that people don't recognize how powerful they actually are. They just don't recognize it. And if we did, this would be. And look, this always happens this way. But if you were to go back in time, right, and kind of go back in 2,000-year increments, right? So there's two different versions of the story of Adam and Eve in the garden. Like, not different stories, but you basically have in one account, and I want to say it's like, either the Syrian account or something like that of Adam and Eve in the garden. Eden is like a place where the gods, lived, and the people were just slaves, right? And Eve, right, where we kind of paint her as like, she, because of her, we all had to leave the Garden of Eden. But in their text, the Garden of Eden isn't a good place. It's where people are slaves and the gods rule, right? Now that sounds familiar, right? So what what Eve does is there's a Joshua tree, right? It's two. It looks like two trees. So you have the tree of good and evil on one side, and the tree of knowledge on the other side. And and the rule was, don't you ever eat of that tree, right? Because if you do, you'll surely die. And so Eve is like, I want to know because somebody gave her a tip. I mean, the devil gave her a tip, right? That, hey, that's not true. If you eat that tree, you'll, so the symbolism is she wanted knowledge. She wanted to know, right, what she had. She ate of it, and because of her, really, you know, Adam followed her. Like, he just, okay, you did that, I'm with you, and they left, right? And because of that, you have, that this kind of vanguard movement of her bringing this down. You go 2,000 years from that point, and you have Joshua, Joshua the son of Nun, right? Now they spell like N-U-N-N, but in reality, Joshua came into Egypt where they were all slaves, right? Sounds familiar, right? They're all slaves. Joshua comes in. He's 30 years old. He's there for 30 years. After 30 years of being there, coming in at 30 years old, he's still 30 years old, right? They go to and through the Red Sea. They go up into the wilderness of Sinai. God says, Moses come up on top of Mount Sinai alone, and Joshua and Moses get up and they go on top of Mount Sinai. If God told you to do something alone, why are you bringing Joshua? I didn't say you and your boy. I said because in reality it was Joshua. He came down and said, Moses, come up alone, and they went up together. Moses would go to talk to God. Where did he go? He would go to Joshua's tent, right? Now, all that now Joshua was the minister, right? And he's there with them all the time. Nobody knew. And what happened was when it was time to go take the promised land, all of the old slaves that were slaves down in Egypt, they were all dead. So if you take that as a principle, not a literal story, but a principle, killing off the slave mentality had to happen before they could receive the promise.
Right.
And then the new generation, they never knew what it was like. And not only that, but in the wilderness of Sinai, what happened? Every day manna rained down from heaven, right? Every day manna came down and you fed yourself and you were fine, right? And every day that happened. And then they went up into Canaan land and they had to fight giants and all all types of stuff, right? But when it was time to go, Joshua led them. And he said, look, stay behind me. I'm going to be here. Because Joshua was the next genetic anomaly, right? And he admits it because later on in Numbers, Joshua comes out and confesses to all of them. He says, look, it was me. I did it. I brought you out. I did all these things, right? And he's telling them I'm the one who overcame the Amalekites. I'm the one who did it. And he tells them that it was him the whole time. That he was trying to get them to appreciate their own power, but they didn't. He saved them, right? So because that's what ended up happening. But that was the method he was using. He stayed with them to try to get them to see. Then you have the Messiah. When the Messiah comes in, what's he do? He comes into a town. He's hanging out with only peasants, prostitutes, and fishermen. And he comes into a town and he tells the first thing he does, he feeds everybody, and then he heals everybody. Everybody. I mean, it's great to have this guy come to town because everybody can walk when he leaves. Everybody can see, right? That's what and then once he did that, then he started preaching to him, right? Now that method, I think he was the closest to it. But this gets misused all the time because what happens is you ask any Christian this question, like right now, honest answer. I guarantee you this is true. You ask any Christian, are you saved? And they will say yes. And when I ask them why, this is the reason they always give me. I mean, the 100% of the time, I was raised Baptist. I know this is true. They said, because I have accepted that Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, died on the cross for my sins. You ever heard that before?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, think about it. If we are continually being trained to say that, do we even know what we're saying? Because we're saying, I'm saved because he died. But that's not where people were saved. Because if all he did was die, we're not saved. It's working with the principle. So what happens is he dies, he resurrects, and then he pours out the Holy Spirit. It was the outpouring of the Holy Spirit on Pentecost. That's what saved them. Without that, they didn't know who they were. And all the Holy Spirit was the consciousness of what he'd been saying all along, that it's God in you, right? And that's what the Apostle Paul says. The Apostle Paul comes in later and says, what, don't you know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, right? Now, I hate to be long. I'm sorry to be so long-winded, but I'm making a point. The reality of what he was doing is he was teaching them, right? He was training them. He was showing them who they were. And this was the method that he used, right? And when they all received the Holy Spirit, they came down from the upper room. They started talking to people, and at that time it was the Jubilee, so people had come in from all over the world. They spoke Spanish and Chinese and Dutch, and when they started speaking in Hebrew, the guy in Spanish, he heard him in Spanish. The guy in Chinese heard him in Chinese. Everybody heard in their own language, and here's why: because the Holy Spirit has its own language. What we call it now is frequency, vibration, right? That's the real method of communication. That's why when someone is communicating with true emotion, with true feeling and being honest, we all resonate with it. We all get excited. We can all feel the sincerity of that, right? Because it's so much more important not just to speak the truth, but to be the truth speaking. So you have that happen. Now bring that modern day. Now the same genetic anomaly in Eve, in Joshua, in Jesus, is the same genetic anomaly that Kim is now. Now, we've seen what doesn't work, so to speak, right? Because none of that ever led to our really permanent freedom.
Right.
So she's been giving everyone and teaching and working with people and doing all she can to return the power to the people. The governments have the option right now to actually have their sovereignty, and they're choosing to be slaves
Right.
because
Two weeks
they
more
do.
of potential slavery.
which which is exactly what they've done with the RV GCR 1,000 times. 2 more days, 1 more day, Friday. I mean, the cycle is so
Yeah.
maddening.
Again, I'm going to play the frog's advocate. We're not maybe the frog, but I'm just thinking
Yeah.
if you're in Trump's shoes and you've got to like move things into position, you might need 2 weeks of time to get people like they're resonating with something else. New set up that new vibration, knowing that they won't be able to be successful. They haven't been successful all this time, so maybe it was like, okay, you're ready to come on board, but you need this 2 weeks. All right, you got the 2 weeks. So, but I understand that I'm not wanting to. I
No,
don't want to wait two
no.
weeks. Oh no,
Okay, I'll tell you what.
you had your chance of slaving us for another,
Yeah.
how many thousand years. So, hey, I do want to say that we have our moderators here that have been doing some things. One, they asked me to kick out someone, so I took the time to go and kick out someone. Also, they're asking John Wilfred is wondering if you could talk about a loose template for project submissions and a basic checklist. Uh,
We have I mean, he wants us to discuss it here.
sure, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I mean, it all depends on what phase you're in. I mean, like it's and there's 1,000 different types of projects. Everything is going to start with a summary of what you want to do, and then from there, the very first thing that you need to do is a needs assessment of what is actually needed. And make sure that those two things match, and just summarize what your vision is, and basically figure out how you think that project is going to contribute to address the problem. So you identify what the issues are, and then you start by figuring out from that point. But you have to do a needs assessment. Needs assessment is the number one thing everyone should be doing right now. you know um
And what
I'm
what you said yesterday was take care of yourself first, right? So put that on your
absolutely,
assessment,
yes,
right?
thank you.
So that's a very good thing to have on there. So, but yeah, and then I added yes, so just write out a basic paragraph, right? This is what I want
Yeah.
to do. Everything else will flow after that. So, what else do they
And
need though? Do they need to have projections, costs?
no,
What are
look, see, here's what we want you to here at this point. Everything they've ever it's the George Costanza method is what we're using. Okay, you ever see Seinfeld?
yes, I
Right.
feel that.
George Costanza comes to the great revelation that every single instinct he's ever had naturally was wrong, ever. So he decides he's going to do exactly the opposite of whatever he naturally feels he should do, right? So a beautiful woman walks in, he would normally hide in the corner and wish he would have talked to her. He decides, not this George. He gets up, he walks over to her, and normally he would lie to her. So he walks over to her, he says, "My name's George Costanza. I'm unemployed and I live with my parents." And to his, because every instinct he's ever had is wrong, she looks at him. She likes it. He gets a job with the Yankees. You know. Now, I will say everything they have ever done, the posing the order, the traditional system. That doesn't mean that there's not, sound practice, right? We're always going to implement sound practice. But what they have done is they've made it nearly impossible to get funded. And then when you do get funded, they steal it, right? So we're going to do the opposite. And I mean this in every way. in virtually every way. Essentially, it's more important that you, the person, is of high integrity, right? I don't want. I mean, and Dan, you tell me, because I feel like at some point you'll probably be doing this with us on some level, right? I mean, like you already have hundreds of projects, like you already do this. So we want to make sure that everybody who comes in, the people that are there, that they're genuine and sincere, and they really put thought into what is needed. I get people every day that are wonderful, amazing, amazing ideas, amazing projects. And I get people every day that call me and they feed me a bunch of malarkey trying to think because they think this is what I want to hear. Right. And they say, oh, yeah, we want to pay off college loans. It's going to be a great program. I'm like, that's what you want to do. Huh? Just pay off college loans. There's no explanation as to how or what's unique about it. A guy called me with, hey, we're going to put up 3 resorts and 6 Hard Rock cafes. And that is what we need more of. More jalapeno poppers in the world. If we can do that, we can unite the world around the jalapeno popper and really awful decorations on the wall, right? These are the kind of things that people who don't really care, they haven't really thought about. I don't say they don't care, but they haven't really put any time or effort or intelligent thought into how they can change the world. And I really do think that's a responsibility that every single person has to embrace individually. How do I change the world? Right? Because a lot of us could change the world just by being, you know, not freaking out because someone cuts us off in traffic, right? Makes a big difference. Just to don't let that energy take hold of you. And then from there, do it one decision at a time, right? I say this all the time. Every choice is life or death, all the time. Every single day, you're faced with this option thousands of times a day. The more often you choose life, you'll realize you just start to live better. You'll feel better. You'll be stronger. And the more time you choose life, you'll feel better. Now, with the projects, we have this. This is already laid out. The questions are already there on the website at Go Camelot. There's already a checklist. So I don't know why people. These things are very clear. I made the site so simple. You
Yeah,
can't miss it.
they might not have gotten to gocamelot.com yet, so that's probably it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's probably it. So I think he has. But yeah, go camelot.com. You go there and you go in as a member. It's free. There is an exact replica of a project form there that we use. That's the same project form we use, and you can submit it. There's an email on there you can send it right to. Um, if you would like help developing that, we we like to do a background check on people. And we like to know who we're working with. We like to do an interview. So I make sure personally to do every one of these interviews, which I'm about 45 people behind, and we have another 200 people like that waiting to come in, which is fine with me. I'd rather do it that way because I want to know everybody in the network, but we're kind of growing a little faster than I can get to. But we're going to bring people in. We'll make sure we know who they are, right? And we do an actual background check. And Yokoyama Legal actually will set up a real irrevocable trust, for right now next to nothing. And I don't want to say anything about it because I hate even talking about money, but they're basically doing this for us for free. Yeah, Yokoyama, like that team just picked up and moved here, and it basically like just they're committed to the cause so much. They're like, look, they're doing this as like kind of a favor, you know, to set these trusts up. But I might have gone too far. I might have made it a little too low for him, So we got to return the price up a little bit, not too much, but I mean, but you couldn't get a trust like that anywhere. I mean, people should just be scooping it up.
You're going to talk about thousands of dollars, even if you went on these, do-it-yourself type trusts, right? Just do those. It's at least $200 if I remember correctly for something, but trusts are so specialized, right? There's a lot into them, so it takes to get something off the shelf and customize is a lot of work. So, but
it's a lot of work, and these are customized specifically, not just for specifically for the world we want to create, right? So, recognizing the limitations and realizing, look, we can bring these people in, and then it's a play on words, but it's everybody in the membership it's a trusted member, and you need some kind of trust anyways to receive funds, right? Because the banks are going to try to jack us up, right? Like, oh, this happened back in September. Kim put out money to create change in People's Club, to Thomas and I.
Yeah.
And then, like the same day, they changed the rule. Oh, those accounts aren't allowed to hold that money anymore because that's what they do, right? It's like, oh, it's like, and they just, and I don't really understand all the time why Kim would play with them. It's like, you know, but I get it. She's trying not to hurt everybody, But
We've got
God,
we've got a couple more things that are being asked here. Is
yeah.
Digger 420 wants to talk about food domes. So I don't know. Do you know about food domes? I mean, I have my own experience with food production and aquaponics, and but maybe you have something in particular.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. So there's one organization, Cure for Hunger, Cure the number 4 Hunger, uh, .com. I mean, they have the actual skunkworks technology on the um, that was developed for, I'm pretty sure, for like underground bases, right? And basically, those food domes, they need about an acre of land to successfully grow. They will produce enough fresh fruits, vegetables, truffles, whatever is needed, to be honest, anywhere on the planet, pretty much, to feed about 50,000 people a year. They have some version of uh, alternating current type of energy that basically you can just set them down. They're going to run indefinitely. And then they also have atmospheric water generators. So they'll abstract fresh drinking water directly from the air.
Okay.
And that will not only will that provide water for the plants, but also will provide water for the people. So people there will have fresh drinking water, right? And we had a deal with them to purchase their first year production line of about 500 units. And the goal was to, put those out to various places that need them all over the world, and try to get people fresh drinking water and food, and also fund their expansion so they could get bigger. And those are things that when we set up our various healing centers, that will, we plan to
What kind of centers?
healing centers for Create Change.
Okay.
Because Create Change is going to be a distribution spot, because people are going to be coming there anyways. We are going to have a healing center there as well, so you'll have, you know subtle introductions to a lot of technology that people don't know about, a lot of methodologies for optimum health, um, which most people of logical intelligence would call cures. But because the retards running the FDA want to make that illegal, we'll just call it, we're going to return people who have certain diseases to optimal health, because they could apparently arrest me for saying that we're going to cure something. God forbid, you know, stop me immediately if I say I'm going to cure something, because we're going to let people rape, molest, kill our children. But if that guy says he's going to cure something, he needs to go to jail. Some jacked up mentality. Sorry. So the healing centers will have, various. We have rife frequency devices that we have negotiated some contracts with to pick up for all those locations. We'll probably use devices like the Beamer, which is a really amazing tech, and they've done an amazing job staying under the radar. It improves the microvascular circulation of the body. It taps into the energetic field, right, and restores that, and basically every health issue in the body will, is addressed by that. And then we'll have things like, yoga and CrossFit, and mobility training, and probably have obstacle courses. I mean, we're going to do our best to make these things, unique based on the area. But the whole idea is to empower people, right? You ever notice that every wellness program you ever saw, every pharmaceutical company you ever saw, the colors even make you feel sick, right? The colors are weak and pathetic. They got a tree growing up and a leaf, and they're like, because when you get here, you need help, right? It's always something to make you feel like, oh my God, I need this, right? I'm so sick.
Yeah.
Like I said, George Costanza, the opposite. We're gonna do whatever they did. We're gonna do the opposite. So, you know, people aren't coming in the door there. We're, holding everybody's hand and making them feel all soft and lovely. We're gonna show them that they are powerful all by themselves. So those locations, the goal, my dream goal would be to put a fully organic, you know, um, biodome there, so that there's food that they can use to make food right on the spot, and it's fresh every day, right? You're
Yeah,
literally
it's
growing
wonderful.
it there.
Is it an automated system, or is this something that there's people working inside these domes?
They actually maintain the whole thing for you, and it's also a way for these locations to, because we don't want them profit focused, right, with the activities of healing and distributing money. It's also a way to uh, maintain the profitability. It's like a passive stream of income. I mean, it's not really passive, but they'll manage the whole thing for you. The problem with some of the contracts they want to do is like they want to take food and vegetables and stuff. They want to take to like sell it to Campbell's Soup, and I'm like, it kind of defeats the purpose, right? To have organic food and then you turn it over to Campbell's and they grind it up and put a bunch of garbage in it and throw it in a can. So I'm trying as much as possible to have these be year round, regardless of the climate. Organic fruits and vegetables that are available to people, and just have that be the store, so to speak, where they just show up all year round and they're able to get that kind of you know fresh food. There are some now with that one. There's some temperature limitations. Now there's another company that runs out of Canada, and they take the back end of the big tractor trailers, and they do vertical farming in those. They're actually a little more expensive, surprisingly, but really, it's a hydroponic. I'm sure that's wrong, so I apologize to the people who understand this better. But hydroponic, yeah, I think it's hydroponic. They're running all these on water. It's very fresh and healthy, and
Yeah, it's hard to find.
they're able to grow similar numbers. From what I understand, a little more expensive, but again, something like those units that look like the size of a truck, they work better in New York City where there's not as much room. You know, so I would we are buying. We're also
I saw.
you know
I actually was kind of looking at a design when I was in Vegas doing a system there, where we'd actually do this multi-story greenhouse system, right? And it
mm,
was circular, but each level was producing food of some sort, from animals to different vegetables, and but basically you had the light that's basically coming in at all the levels, right? And it would turn. So you had
yes. Oh, listen, I'm going to tell you how. Look, we can build. See, everyone's always telling me like not to do things in New York, right? Because like you're too mainstream in New York. Everyone will see it. That's why we're going to do it in New York, right? Because these
and
things, it's not because but
yeah,
I have a way to
it's
do
for
that
the
that's
cities. This is
perfect.
what this was meant for. Was the cities, because it's a skyscraper of food,
Right.
right?
So
And,
look,
and the
I
first
have a great method to that.
and they first target the restaurants to provide them fresh foods, so that it's better for everyone than eating at the restaurants, because it's better foods. So and with it, yeah, a lot of really great ideas. I want to also say that there was another message here that basically they're saying, is it possible that we can have this a little bit earlier? This because we're losing people in the U.S. as it gets later.
Yes. I mean, you know what? Whenever you say, man, I'm with you. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
we kind of
I'm doing this because I stay up because regardless, you and I know one of us has got to stay up. So, but I think we can try it at like 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock if you want.
that's
Works for
also
you.
fine too. That would be 3 hours earlier. That's good. It's good for me. I mean, for me, I'm starting at 1 p.m. So if we started at 10 a.m., that's fine too. It
All right,
doesn't
let's
make.
set a goal. Just just to put it on there. Let's set it for 9 o'clock, and I am pretty sure we're gonna have some amazing news tomorrow night. So I think that's better, anyways, and that kind of hits everybody. So I think 9 o'clock p.m. tomorrow night we'll do this, and it's gonna be like Rumble in the Bronx here. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be the greatest show on earth tomorrow night. We'll get everybody
Okay,
involved.
that'll be good. Well, that's good. So see if there's anything else here. Although someone was asking about the dinar value, what's going to happen with it?
I, I don't. I mean, I don't have any association or affiliation with the currency. The currency is fake. It's not registered. It's not
They're
a
going to
real
have to
registered
ask
asset.
Iraq, right?
Yeah, I mean, what's going to happen is that we're going to fund projects in Iraq, and that will naturally increase the production in Iraq, the currency will naturally value over time and return to a real proper value. And eventually all the currencies will come to a place where they're of similar value. That is what will happen. It just will not happen in a flash mob with the military showing up and escorting you with your, 4 million dinar because you're the most important person on earth as they bring you into the secret exchange center and, treat you like a
With the
king and you're the
guillotine.
chosen one. That's not going to happen. You know,
Yeah, avoid the guillotines.
right. That's what I do think would happen. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I had to confirm today. Yeah, I had several sources actually like kind of come out. I guess because I was talking about it, they're saying, yeah, that's actually what would have happened. They would have, it's always been a depopulation agenda. Fastest way to take out the believers, right? You rapture them up, rapture up
Raptured, yeah.
the true believers. So
Yeah, 140,000 of them, all heads on pikes.
oh my gosh, yeah, like Dracul, scary stuff, man. I mean,
I wouldn't doubt it because they're going to want to bring up that fear level. So you see heads on spikes, you're going to be basically flashing to Dracula and Vlad the Impaler.
well, the methodology though is they want you to be afraid of someone else and to trust them, right? So it's like, oh my goodness, this is terrifying times, right? Meanwhile, you're
So
winning like the one.
we've got another question. It was a Cindy Nelson. What will we do with our currencies? The same question as the dinar, right? It's a
Hold on to your currencies.
just hold on, and at some point, they'll be valued at something after this whole transition happens.
Right. But in the meantime, just put them in a shoebox, right? And start to think of how you would actually want to change the world.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I want to put this out there as a challenge. I would love for people to do this. Look, everybody who's listening, please tell everybody you know. Tell everybody you know. This is how easy we can make it to really open the door to get people funded, right? Give me a 1 minute clip, a 1 minute video clip. Go to gocamelot.com, go in there, send it to my email or send it to the email there. It'll hit me eventually. Send a 1 minute clip explaining how you're going to change the world, no matter how small. Because remember, the world is going to require everybody. 1 minute, explain how you're going to change the world, and make sure that you include in the email that it's okay. I'm going to compile these because I'm looking at constantly the energy and redirecting the energetic flow and really bringing in enhancing the energetic flow. And I just feel very clear about this. The more people we can just get to even consider, you know, like don't be disgruntled because of the politics and consume yourself because so and so did this. And how are you going to change the world? Because if all of us focus on that, the energy is so powerful, the world will have to change. Just to put your energy on that. But, and do me a favor, when you do it, make sure you focus on how you feel about it. Because talking about how you're going to change the world and really knowing how much better that would feel put you in such a higher vibration in the whole world. So quick, too.
Yeah, let's just say that you're actually going to have the GCR without doing anything with your currencies. Now, what's your project? What were you going to do with the money?
Right.
Just write it out, right? And then go ahead and do it as a 1 minute clip on YouTube. And if you have a Gmail account, you have a YouTube channel, even if you didn't know it. So you just have to go ahead and record on your phone, and then save it to share it to your YouTube account, and it will go there. Automatically. Then you have a link. It's very easy. Just people just don't know it's there. So someone is also now, well, same I guess as Cindy Nelson as can we give the currencies to Tank and Kim?
No, I don't want anything. Now, there might be something set up. This could happen. I'm not making any promises, but there's been discussion of a project that would provide some sort of compensation for people that purchase currency. Um, do not come to me with your currency. I don't want to hear about your currency. I don't, we are not in the exchange business. That's not what we do. We fund projects. We fund innovative ideas, you know, uh, you know, high integrity people, high purpose, high mission, and we will support you every step of the way.
I,
And
I discussed that with you earlier. I said, it's better just to do a project, to deal
right.
with the GCR people that, say, well, what, okay, bring your currency in, and then, okay, now we'll do the exchange, right? But, for your project, right?
Right.
Do something
Right. It's like, what do
wonderful.
you want to do? Right.
Set up
But
a-
even at the end, like once we were, even if like they set something up, you know, I, I don't want any of the bad juju associated with anybody's currency and all the heartache it brought them. To be honest, I don't want it. So, if if our people record the numbers, I'm gonna make sure that those are put in a system somewhere, locked away in a vault, far, far away from anything we do. I don't want anything to do with it,
Right.
because it is, in my opinion, one of the most evil operations that has ever been perpetuated against human beings.
Yeah,
You know,
it's tainted. So can you actually do something to turn it positive? Is really the question. Yeah,
right. So yeah. So let's talk about that. How do we transmute that energy, right? So here's what was told to everybody, right? You're gonna come in, you're gonna exchange, you're gonna take 20% of what you got, 80% is gonna go to some random source to do projects for you, right? And everybody, once like Yosef came on the scene, everyone became about doing projects, right? And but you know what? To be honest, what in my experience, most people came up with a lot of you know basic ideas, right? The same basic things repeated over and over again, right? And they'd have like 13, 14, 20 projects, right? Put all that away. Put all that away. Go through that list of BS projects that you probably penciled off in half an hour because you thought you were going to exchange that night and you wanted to look like you were benevolent, but in reality, you just wanted to get out of debt. You just wanted to be more comfortable, which, by the way, is okay. Take all those projects, look at them, and figure out which one you'd actually care about, and put all your energy on that one project and come with a good, just a simple description and explain your situation and be honest. You know what? I talk to people all the time, and one of the biggest things that happens is they say, they're like, I can't even breathe. How can I come up with a project? Believe me when I say this, I know. I really do. I get it. And I think that's unfair too. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure, if your heart's desire is to do good and operate right, we're going to make sure that you can pay your bills and take care of your family first. Like I'm a huge advocate for that.
Yeah,
I
that's the
you
first
can't help
project.
anyone.
Yeah, it's the
That's
first
the
project.
first project. The first project is Project You. Matter of fact, we
Well,
actually own that. We have Create You. It's we've already coined that for our projects to
what was
provide
it?
relief.
Say it again.
Create You. KRE the number 8 YOU.
Okay.
You know,
Create.
but we haven't put that out yet because we have to get the exact parameters because there's certain things
Well, okay.
we're going to do that. I just need to know what they are.
Let me just say, okay, if you're looking out and you don't know what you want to do, because basically you've got too much pressure on you to decide what good things you want to do. Just think about it about, okay, just number one, pay your debts. Number two, talk to your family, talk to your friends. How can you help them? Right? Then you can talk about the projects with them, and you might come up with a project together to work on with the people that you love. Right? Then you can start thinking about, but pay off your debts, talk with your family how you can help them. Once you find out how you can help them, the rest of it will come about. You'll know.
That's right. I totally agree. And you know what? Look, focus on what you love. You know, like I know for a fact there's things we've allotted allocated funding for, like a brewery. Who would have thought that we would fund a brewery? It's going to provide jobs, lifelong dream, skilled labor. There's a brewery. That's a humanitarian project. It's helping humanity be a better place. You know, and there's a stadium, right? It's going to be a big stadium for the most part. I think, well, I wouldn't consider that normally a humanitarian project. Well, it's going to provide a lot of jobs. It's going to help a lot of people. A lot of if it's done the right way.
Well, stadiums are part of happiness because people go there to get happy, right?
Very true.
Watch sporting events, watch events, whatever. So that's humanitarian. Just about everything that's done is for humanitarian, except for when you're looking at enslaving people and eating them and those those.
Like, definitely don't come to me with a human enslavement and cannibalism project. We will definitely say no. I mean, we have standards. I'm just saying.
There is a criteria.
Yeah, we draw the line.
All right. Someone's asking for your email address for those clips to go to.
Go to Go Camelot, Camelot.com. You have to go into the member area, right? And it'll take you 5 seconds to put your email in. And then you can email me. You can email, well, that'll come directly to me or, one of the mods, but it'll, but I mean, right now, so far, I very diligently, I go through every single email every day and I call everyone back personally. So, and some days it takes me a week to get there, but I make sure to call everyone back. And it's, as long as I can do that, I will. And I don't mind us growing nice and slow, so I can keep doing that. But I'm sure I won't be able to keep it up. So I'm trying to do it now.
Eventually, there'll be admins that you can have read through those things, and then they'll pass through the ones that meet criteria. It's just part of setting up a bureaucracy, right?
No, see, it's so funny. No, I have amazing support from my team of young ladies that I call the gangster fairies, and a few other people like that. And they're great. I mean, and all these people, they do anything. But some things, man, you got to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on. And I want to know who these people are. I want to know who's bringing these projects in. So as much as I can, I do. And I don't sleep much, so I'm always trying to get back to people all over the world. But you know what? I'll do it now. I'll do it now because like, nobody said it was going to be easy, right? No one said changing the world from the biggest the biggest secret society to enslave humanity in history was going to be easy. It's going to take some long hours sometimes.
Take some time, just and a lot of misinformation, misdirection. You just got to keep taking the next step forward, and that's what we're doing. We're moving forward, move past the dinar and Zim and all the rest of it, historical bonds. It's all a part of this psyop, right? And we just have to move past it.
Yeah,
move into doing things.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you know what? The psyop aspect is, I've learned so much about this. I'm just fascinated by how strong what's going on now. Um, this really is, it's a once in, not just a lifetime. It's a once in a generation. It's, thousands of lifetimes that we've been waiting for this opportunity, and right now we get it. And I'll tell you this. I would ask everybody who's listening, everybody who's around, not for me. I don't care how you get the word out, right? Like, this is Dan's channel, right? I promote his channel every single day, not because it does anything for me. Like, I could care less about recognition. We don't make. I'm not making any money off this. I want people to know what's happening because we're trying to change the world. Period. Right? I want to empower people. So I want to get. There's going to be haters no matter what you do. That's fine, right? There's going to be people who feel entitled. That, like the gentleman last night who was saying, like, we like, if he's going to fund, this guy's going to select a few projects, and he better fund everybody then. Dude, try that. I better fund everybody. Why? Because you got tricked. Because you're on the same path. Because remember, I got tricked. And what I did was I came out publicly, apologized, redirected myself, and got and every single person who was my advocate and associate in the RV, gone. All of them gone. So I had to completely rebuild another team to go the other way. Right? So anybody who they feel disgruntled and they're getting done wrong because they've come to think that it's someone else's job to free them. That's the freaking problem. It's your job to free yourself.
Yeah.
And
if you figure out that you're doing something wrong, stop. Right? Change your direction. Do something different.
What? That works?
You just gotta stop.
But Dan, didn't you start the show off by saying they can't help it? They can't. You know what? It's not. It gets to the point. It's like, what are you gonna do? No, you don't have to stay on that path. Don't be the boiled. Listen, Dan, that's what we're going to call our show together. We're going to call it the Boiled Frog. The Boiled
Boiling
Frog Show
frogs.
with Dan and Tank.
Right.
You know,
Well,
it's
oh,
we have to change. People have to stop thinking it's okay to just say, "Oh, that's why it happened. It's not my fault. It's
yeah.
your fault."
Yeah, one of my team members is now reclusive. I can't get a hold of him. I think the GCR has not paid out again, and I was there saying, listen, I really wanted to, but I don't think it is, and we really got to like focus on it this way. So, but it's part of that internal process. Once you recognize, and someone's trying to wake you up to something, hello, wake up. Just try to be understanding and let them go through the internal process. Saying, hey, I need to refocus and go in the direction that seems like this is the right way. And for what and as I was describing to you earlier today, my process to evaluate what was going on. I mean, I've got a lot on the line in the GCR right now. I got mountains of historical bonds and gold and everything in China.
I know.
So it's like, oh, well, that was all fake. Not that it doesn't exist and doesn't sit there, and the stories are behind it, but it's the upfront story. It's what's being presented is not correct. How much of our history has been distorted, we don't know. I was looking at some of the stuff I heard from Thomas Williams. Started looking into Tartaria.
I know.
Right.
Me too, by the way.
No,
Because it's
I'm
fascinating. It's amazing.
It's fascinating, but I can completely believe it's still another psyop, along with the flat earthers, right? I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, but some of the things are make some sense, and some of the things are not quite sitting right with me. Just like there's things in the flat Earth side that models and things like that they try and present, and this proves this. And I said, yeah, if you're thinking in 2 dimensions, yeah, that works. Now in 4
Right.
dimensions and flying through space 5 dimensions, and the planets are now twisting behind the sun. Now things change, right? You got to think of it in a much different way than you've been thinking of it. And certain things, and maybe we're not on a perfect sphere anymore. Maybe we're a chunk of planet left over, and there is an edge to fall off of, right? Because we were part of a much larger planet. Yeah. and
Yeah, man. I'm with you. I'm actually very impressed. Now I know this for a fact. Just to put this out there, the flat Earth is a psyops that was created by the CIA. I know that for a
I know
fact.
it too. Yes.
Yeah. So you know it too, right? So, but I gotta say, they are great at their job. If I was ever going to have a job with the cabal, I would love to be one of the guys like the psyops creators, right? And I would be very dramatic about it all the time. And I would make myself a valued commodity and say it's an art to lie to the people every day because they come up with amazing stories. They're so compelling. And then they're able to actually act them out in front of everyone, right? They're able to destroy things and, create stuff and blame it on other people. I mean, it's like, if you were just a complete animal. Like it's the dream job.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you can either do that, or you work for the CIA making psyops, or you can work for like Electronic Arts and make video games. I mean, you've got good talents.
Right. You're right. It's a good point. It's a good point.
You can do
both cool jobs. Both cool jobs. Yeah.
Well, I think we're at almost 2 hours, so
Are we really? Oh my goodness.
we're cruising along again. It just time flies. It's okay. So maybe if we want to bring someone on to ask questions, we can post the link, right, and see if that.
I mean, if people they're there. I mean, they're probably. Oh, you just to engage people. Yeah, okay.
Just in case.
I'm with you. That's fine. Wait. However you want to do it. That's fine.
I posted the link, so if anyone wants to come on and ask questions directly, please come on. You're welcome to do that. We've got 87 people watching, and a lot in the chat room is basically scrolling by pretty quickly. People are active in it. So it's hard for us to, gauge. That's why we have a moderator that's kind of like reading stuff and kind of throwing stuff up at us. So sorry if we missed some of your questions, but the link is there. I'll push it up there again. So you're welcome to jump on, and if you want to ask any questions, and we can go from there. So let's see. Let me just take this time to say, uh, our effort here, our mission is to get out the word that there is a lot going on, and that these projects, if the funding is here right now, this is what we got to get people active on, is getting their projects in. So take this link and pass it on. You can share it, but I urge you to copy the link and paste it into your social media, along with a statement that says, please, we need to get the word out. Copy and paste this link on your social media. It's the only way that we can bypass the shadow banning that goes on. So this is they, in their algorithms, they won't recommend this, right? But if we diligently paste the people that are watching, and if you see this, just grab it, go to the share, grab the link, and paste it in your social media accounts. That's actually how we can get the word out. Please also subscribe and like and give positive comments. Only positive comments. Negative comments, they're not necessary.
That's right.
Yeah.
But not, in general. You know what? I really think we should be more creative and daring and start titling these things like, um, you know, big boobs, naked butt or something, something that would really that would be so far off topic that no way YouTube would ever shoot it down. Because if it's gonna, put some pornography out there and kids can access it, they're gonna be like, this is a win-win, right? So, um,
Well, you could take these videos, download them, retitle them, and upload them again. You're welcome to do that. A lot of people in the alternative media get upset when they have alternative channels popping up, grabbing their stuff. Even again, like with Lucid Dreamer, I had no idea it was not Thomas Williams. Now I know he's personally endorsing it now, right? I heard that on his show, because I started listening to his complete show. But I heard him say he endorses it. But that's good. But because people need like little bite-sized amounts, and so even breaking up the video that we're doing here, 2-3 hours, you need to break it up into a 5-minute, 10-minute segment about a certain thing. Just go ahead and do it, right? Go ahead. You want to make money off of it, please go ahead. I encourage you to do so. It's much better that people get the word out, and it's okay to make money.
well, I feel the same way. I feel the same way. About it, like with people, Lucid Dreamer would used to have my articles read all the time there by some robot or something. And by the way, I mean, I don't know who Lucid Dreamer is, but I know that Paul, our lawyer, he copyrighted everything. So now I don't think people can cut and paste stuff from our site anymore. But he did that because there were certain websites that would take what we had and they would be selective and they would tell one part of the story. So he shut it down because we don't want to pervert the message, right? And also we want to make sure people know to kind of come back to get the whole story. The Speak Project is a great resource. I mean, anybody, there's no advertisements, there's no place to make donations, and there's no products being sold at all.
I mean,
It is a website.
I mean, that's the website that really convinced me to really follow what was going on. And actually, I wanted to reach someone and hear what's going on, because when I read the material on the site and it mentioned Swiss Indo and OMD, I said, "Oh, okay. Well, now that ties in with what I was doing 4 years ago. So
Right.
let me see how, why is this crossing my path at this time, and let's take the steps necessary." And and I told you earlier, I see this as a big wave that is building, because there's a lot of overlapping events that I'm working on independently of what you guys are doing. That they're crossing over. So it made a
Yeah.
lot of sense. Um, to try and make a focused attention on what we need to have happen.
Man, I gotta tell you, you have dealt with so many different people. I was telling somebody about you today that your experience is really, really diverse as far as this goes. Because a lot of people don't go into the business relationships you have and come out to be able to make the positive shift that you have. Because a lot of those things that those, in my experience, those people kind of end up, delusional or owning you, on some level. So, to your credit, it's, I mean, like we were talking about some other people you're doing business with that, I know are trustworthy because we've had them vetted thoroughly, and that's, in this day and age, like it's really important
Hard
because,
to find. Hard to find people you can
well,
trust and have
people,
integrity.
yeah, so many people that have made money have been compromised severely, So yeah, it's
I've
but
been
I will say there.
I've been around money my whole adult life. I mean, I grew up in a poor steel mill town, right in Pennsylvania. So I experienced poverty, but I also you know immediately went into my right out of high school. I was in a very rich family in India. My father-in-law, I married right
Right.
out of high school. My father-in-law was the fourth richest man in India. I had no idea about it at the time at where I knew he was rich, but fourth richest, I didn't know. I didn't find out until like maybe even a decade after he died that how rich he actually was. But
Pretty
that
amazing.
was
Pretty
matter.
amazing.
So I was the one that never asked him for money.
Right. Man,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, and that's a
wow.
and he appreciated that because everyone was always asking him for money, and I never did. I mean, he ended up paying for my college education. I
Oh,
accepted
wow.
that.
Yeah. Right. Right.
My ideas about things are a little maybe off, but I think they're pretty on. So if someone is offering to pay for you for something, I'm not like, well, no, I'm not going to accept that. I am appreciative of that gesture of understanding that what they're doing is really a blessing, not just for me,
Agreed.
but for them. And I don't want to deny them the blessing. Right?
I totally agree. I really agree. I laugh because I could just think of 1,000 jokes that I could make about that. But I totally agree. I totally. You know what? It's funny. I was raised this way, and I raised my kids this way. That like when someone gives you a compliment, just say thank you. When someone offers you a gift, just be demonstrate gratuity and take the gift they gave you and make the work. Make it work. You know,
Yeah. Treat
that's all you
people
gotta do.
with respect, no matter where you're. The other thing is like, well, I would go back to, spending time in India. I spent a lot of time in India for, a good, you know, 20 years. I spent every year a few months out of the year in India. And, the culture there is a class based system, right?
Hmm.
So I, I always treated everyone from any of the classes as an equal.
Yep.
I never put myself above any of them, and it didn't matter if they were the richest people there because I met them, or the poorest. They just treat them as another human being, right? And that's the best thing that we can all do is just treat everyone with respect, right? And
I totally agree. It's funny. I lived in Floral Park in Queens for 15 years, and when we bought our house, it was like an Irish neighborhood, and it was like starting to integrate with some various cultures. And after a while, it was 100% an Indian neighborhood, and it was amazing because our neighbors were Christian. There was an older Muslim who would literally he was on the spiritual journey. He would walk to the mosque every single day, come by, He's the sweetest old man, and he would give my kids $5 like every other day, you know. And then, but I mean, it was, and they had there was brand new Hindu group that would come around. It was so diverse, it was so different. And you know what? They were completely segregated. They didn't like. They all moved together, right? And like similar Indians, but there was the clearly a merchant class, right? There was clearly a, and they were getting robbed terribly, right? Because they were taking these little post World War II brick houses and building them up into these, fabulous, stucco, kind of obnoxious places, right? Which coincidentally we did the exact same thing, right? So, and they, but it was so interesting because when they would come over from India, they would come with a lot of cash. So the whole the neighborhood, everybody was getting robbed because they would just leave cash sitting around everywhere. So they get so this group out of Jackson Heights was coming in and they were robbing from this Colombian gang, and I was just but it was crazy. But I feel like
I
it was
mean, that's.
amazing the
I mean,
system.
India is a very much a cash-based culture, right? And
Right, right.
when I first started going there, I loved it because I could read all the newspapers. Right? I'm 21 years old in India, sitting down and reading the English newspapers, and I said, "Well, this is really." And the newspapers actually gave news. I mean, it was amazing. But I remember this argument that was taking place that their tax rate, right, was 120%.
How?
How exactly? Because you had the federal and the state governments. You added up the between them, it turned out to be 120%. So how could anyone, obviously, so it forced everybody to lie. Everyone had two sets of books. You had the white books
Right.
and the black books, right? And so all the white money is the stuff that would end up in the bank. And you made that the minimum, right? You just shrunk that down as much as possible, right? And the black money is what you carried around with you, stuck in your closet, and it was in the trunks of cars, and it was all.
But I mean, that is the most ridiculous thing in the. But it's funny. I mean, really, in France, that's not that bad. But what they've
Well,
done is
this
they
was
tax them so much that
this
they
was
can't survive.
but the article was about what they were doing is they were changing the tax rate to 30 some percent. I forget what the actual number was. Right, and figuring out that those people would then agree to pay tax, right? Because no one was paying. Right? They
Right.
brought it down between the two, 30%, 35, whatever it was. That hey, it would be they collect more money, and it did work. But when you have a culture that's set up to run with two sets of books, and it's normal every day to do bribery in the government. I mean, it's expected. It's just part of business. There was no extortion, right? Here in the Philippines, there's a lot of corruption, but they also extort. And then when you do extortion, you can't do business because if you just have bribery, it's a cost of doing business, right? Yeah, it's like you pay and stuff. But when you have to pay, the very next day after you made your payment because they're extorting you, well, you paid that easily. We'll just get some more from you. That's when business does not occur. So you can get to where you can have a stable economy. So India thrived, right? They had technology push in the country. Everyone was educated on computers, and they brought up their middle class up to 300 million people in a middle class situation where they're able to buy cars. Out of poverty, they went from where you had like 10% of the population is wealthy, right, and 90% poor. They brought it up to a 30% middle class. That's 300 million people, bigger than the United States. So, but they still had 600 million poor, but still they were on the right direction. But it was a system that was set up based upon this weird system where they had to have two sets of books and they had bribery, but it was standardized.
The problem with that stuff to me is this: is that before the British came in, India was thriving everywhere. And then they came in to civilize them, right? Which basically means we want them to act in the manner that we deem to be acceptable, right? That they deem to be acceptable. And then they destroyed so much of the culture. And to speak to the resilience of India, right? I guess this is the southern part that's still very much connected to kind of the yogi, I don't know, Hindu kind of mentality, right? Like, and there's still a spiritual center. But as long as the center was spiritual, every part of India thrived. Even like just the trees grew bigger, from what I understand. What I was told, it was everything on it was healthier.
Everyone could eat, right? So what the westernized version of what poverty was. I mean, when I'm talking about poverty levels, we're talking about the westernized concepts of rich and poor and everything. And there's a lot of truth on the eastern side or Indian perspective, but but overall, the people were happy. So if they were sending their children that were 12 years old to go work in a factory to make shoes and only making, $5 a day, that was okay because that $5 meant a big deal to that family, right? They all got to eat. So it was very disrespectful for people, I think, to come out and say, okay, we're saying that you can't run these factories because you're mistreating your people. And they weren't. Not to say there wasn't people that mistreat people, but in general,
I think I'm going a little further back, though. I mean, the British went in and literally demolished the core culture and divided them like they do. I mean, because it wasn't just the British. I mean, it was just the cabal, right? It was the version of that,
well,
and
I mean
they went in.
well, just I hear what you're saying, but I've always said that the Indians, and I say this to Indians all the time, you guys are the most racist people on the planet because you're racist amongst yourselves by the shade of your skin. What shade you are is a different level in class, up to the Brahmins being the white all the way down to the most black. I mean, but it was so divided by this class system that when the British came in, it was already there. I mean, the divisions.
Yeah.
So,
No, yeah, that's a good point.
but they're also very loving people. I mean, I listen.
They are.
They,
That was my experience too.
they,
I lived in an Indian neighborhood for 10 years, and they were amazing. They're amazing.
so I'm very appreciative of that understanding in my life that I had in India and the people that I met and the understanding that I got of it. And speaking with my ex-wife's uncle, who was a very educated and learned scholar of ancient history, and he said and he demonstrated how their history goes back 40,000 years. And during the time of the Great Flood, that they all went up into the Himalayas, and when the water receded, they all came back down. So it's like that. It was not like only two people on Earth in this scenario, right? There were
Right.
more of them. So
Right.
so some of these things, it was like, it reminds me back then when I went to Catholic. I left the Catholic Church when I was 13 because they didn't follow the Bible, but I was brought up Catholic. And I go but I didn't appreciate them punishing me for asking questions. Like when you got Adam and Eve, they had two sons, Cain and Abel. Who did Cain and Abel marry and have children with? And they punished me for asking that question.
Why?
I don't know. There's only one woman.
Well, not really. There's
Uh,
sisters. I mean, there's massive, but yeah.
but you see,
There's a lot of things missing there. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's a very logical question.
It's a very logical question, and of course, yeah, and there's a lot more to that. But when you're a very young kid and you're asking these questions, and you're very serious. I mean, listen, I understand. There's a man and a woman. They have a kid, right? So now, if you have two brothers, where their kids come from? Oh, okay, there's sisters involved. Oh, okay, really? They did their sisters?
Well, back then it wouldn't have been a big deal, right? At that time,
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yeah, but how does that work? And it goes So I don't know what happened. All I know is that we've got 8 billion people now.
It worked out. It worked out.
It worked
I
out.
think. Yeah. Yeah.
But
They just don't know.
I know that I don't know everything, but I'm willing to learn. And I try and keep that open. And even with what's going on in the GCR, and why now I can say it's a big lie. Not that we're not going to have a global currency reset. It's just what's behind it has been a lie.
Dan, adjust your mic, man. Whatever it is. You're
Okay.
like breaking up for some reason.
Yeah, I think what's going on is we're getting some background music or something coming in.
Oh, he just shut it off. There it is. Yeah. Okay. That's what it was.
And that interferes with the mic. It cuts in and out. Then.
I got you. Yeah, man. This is it's funny with the religions and the caste systems and all these things. They're all a symptom of the way they've divided. This is the master plan, just to divide. So that's what we got to get over. You know what? It's a teaspoon of melanin that separates someone as light as you and someone as dark as seal, right? A teaspoon. That's the difference. If we were to peel the skin off, everybody's red. Everybody's got the same basic bone structure. Everybody is so similar. It's ridiculous to have. And in Africa, what is it? It's like the Janjaweed and the whatever the warring tribe. Like you and I would never be able to tell the difference. But I told you what happened with this guy. The Rothschilds did that experiment. They took a culture, a small village of 1,000 people. They gave every single member $500,000 on purpose to prove a point to one guy. Let all of them have $500,000. They never had money before that. They didn't. So the chief in 1 year killed everybody, killed every single one of his villagers at his own hand. And I spoke to the guy who killed the chief, and he said, and he was a kid. He was like in the CIA since he was very, very young. He was like 22 years old, and he was freaking out. And he's like, "Why did you do this? Like, they gave you had all this money." And the guy said, "Because I didn't want them to get ideas and leave."
Well,
And that's the kind of stuff that the Rothschilds would do to people. They just come in and destroy their world by, you had a perfectly peaceful tribe. They never had money. They never needed it, right? You introduce money and you blow up.
We have someone that's joined us. So would you like to ask a question? Joe Paulo?
Jean, man, I know you're there.
Now he's muted himself.
All right.
Well, why'd you join if you're not going to say anything? That's
no, right. Put up or shut up, man. We're not playing here. That's all right. You know what? Actually, I think I got us right at 2 hours.
I think we're good. Yeah, we can.
Hello.
Oh, there we go.
Hello.
Jean, come lately. What's up?
Are you there?
We're here.
Can you listen?
Okay, we're listening.
Go ahead. You're live.
Okay. John, I want you to take some time, put that together, and you can bring it back tomorrow night. Mute. I know, John. He must be having some technical difficulties.
I muted him. Sorry, John. All right.
Yeah. All right, man. So tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, I'm going to post it everywhere, and I'm sure we'll get a little bit bigger audience if I put it out like that at 9.
Okay, I'll make the link for you right away.
Oh wait, tomorrow is. Yeah, we'll go at 9. That's fine. Perfect.
All right.
Cool. Appreciate it.
All right,
Thanks
guys.
so much.
Again, take the time to take this and share it. If you're watching, just take time. Like, comment, share this video. We need to get this message out.
Yeah. Tomorrow night's going to be a big night. I'm excited. All right. Talk to you later.